Sure. So let me explain where I come from on this, Liam, and also let me say that the issue isn't porn. So what I'm doing with Make Love Not Porn is a complete accident, essentially. I never set out to do anything I'm doing currently. Um, I date younger men who tend to be men in their 20s. And so, about 7 or 8 years ago, and this is before the media ever picked up on any of this, I began realizing that through dating younger men, I was encountering an issue that would, quite frankly, never have crossed my mind if I had not encountered it very personally and intimately, which is what happens when two things converge. When today's total freedom of access to hardcore porn online meets our society's equally total reluctance to talk openly and honestly about sex. It's the convergence of both of those things that results in porn becoming, by default, the sex education of today in not a good way. And so I found myself encountering a number of, if you like, sexual behavioral memes. I went, whoa, I know where this behavior is coming from. If I'm experiencing this, other people must be as well, and I want to do something about it. So 5 years ago, I put up on no money, so it's very basic and clunky, a website at makelovenotporn.com that posts the myths of hardcore porn and balances them with reality. So the construct is porn world versus real world. I made it funny to defuse the awkwardness and embarrassment around this whole issue. And I had the opportunity to launch Make Love Not Porn at TED. I took a deliberate decision to be very explicit in my TED talk because I knew that audience would not get this issue unless I was very straightforward. As a result, I am to this day the only TED speaker ever to have uttered the words "come on my face" on the TED stage, 6 times in succession. The talk went viral as a result, and it drove an extraordinary response to Make Love Not Porn. And the most extraordinary thing was not simply huge amounts of traffic to the site from every country in the world, so it went global without my doing anything about it, but every single day for the past 5 years, I've gotten thousands of emails to my Make Love Not Porn inbox, and they come from everybody, young and old, male and female, straight and gay, from every country in the world. And even before the website I put up, what amazes people is simply the fact that I stood on the stage in public, I talked about and I'm doing something about what everybody knows but nobody ever speaks about. And as a result, people feel able to tell me anything. They pour their hearts out to me on email. They tell me things about their sex lives and their porn watching habits they've never told anybody else before. They write for advice. 15-year-old boys write for advice. 50-year-old women write for advice. And it was the cumulative impact of those emails arriving day after day after day that made me feel I had a personal responsibility to take this venture forwards in a way that would make it more far reaching, helpful, and effective. So, what I decided to do was, and it's really important to emphasize this, Make Love Not Porn is not anti porn. The issue isn't porn. The issue is the complete absence in our society of an open, healthy, honest, truthful conversation around sex in the real world, which, if we had it, would, amongst many other benefits, also mean that people would then bring a real world mindset to the viewing of what is essentially artificial entertainment. So our tagline is pro sex, pro porn, pro knowing the difference. And our mission boils down to simply talk about it. Talk about sex openly and honestly in the public domain, and talk about it openly and honestly privately with your partners. So, what I decided to do was to take every dynamic that exists in social media currently and apply them to the one area that no other social media network platform is ever going to go, sex, in order to make real world sex and the discussion around it socially acceptable and therefore just as socially shareable as anything else we currently share on Facebook, Tumblr, Twitter, Instagram. So a year ago, my team and I launched in public beta MakeLoveNotPorn.tv, which is a user-generated, crowdsourced video sharing platform that celebrates real-world sex. It's effectively MakeLoveNotPorn.com brought to life. Anybody from anywhere in the world can submit videos of themselves having real-world sex. We explain what we mean by that. It's not performative. This is not about performing for the camera, but just about capturing what goes on in the real world in all its funny, glorious, messy, silly, wonderful humanness. I and my team curate, we watch every video to make sure it's real, and we have a revenue sharing business model. You pay to rent real world sex videos, and 50% of that income goes to you, our contributor, or as we like to call you, our Make Love Not Porn star. Okay, so first of all, Liam, Make Love Not Porn is gender equal. Women and girls are just as influenced by porn as sex education as men are. In fact, I've had a number of 20 something men say to me, my girlfriends are doing everything they see in porn and it's getting in the way of a real connection. So this is not an issue that is restricted to guys. Um, the other thing is that, again, as I say, the issue isn't porn. Um, Overly porn influenced sexual behavior is usually driven by the best of all possible motives and not the worst, because we all get very vulnerable when we get naked. Sexual egos are very fragile. People find it bizarrely difficult to talk about sex with the people they're actually having it with while they're actually having it. Because you are terrified that if you say anything at all, if you comment on what's going on, you will hurt the other person's feelings, you'll put them off you, you'll derail the encounter, you'll potentially derail the entire relationship. But at the same time, you want to please your partner, you want to make them happy. Everybody wants to be good in bed. And so you'll seize your cues on how to do that from anywhere you can. And if the only cues you've ever seen have been given are from porn, because nobody ever talked to you about sex in the real world, then those are the cues you'll take for not very good effect. And that's why, if you're a guy watching porn, you think, oh my God, women are absolutely bloody gagging for men to come on their faces. They are begging for my cum. I will not satisfy unless I come all over her face. Okay, you want to make her happy. So the issue isn't porn. The issue is that nobody's ever had a conversation that goes, this is how sex works in the real world. This is how you turn a woman on. This is how you make a woman come. And so that's why makelovenotporn.com, which has, for example, porn world versus real world. Porn world, all men love coming in women's faces. All women love having their faces come on. Real world, some people like this, some people don't. I mean, the issue is not coming on faces. The issue is talk about what you both like and what you both enjoy. Some women absolutely love having men come on their faces. Some women would rather they didn't. Equally, some men adore coming on women's faces. Some men don't want to do that, but think they have to. So the issue really isn't the porn. The issue is great sex is born out of great communication. That's what's lacking. Absolutely, because I think that you know, a great sex life makes a huge difference to a relationship. I cannot tell you the number of conversations I've had with people where, and this is both men and women, where they are madly in love with their partner, but the sex is dreadful. And that means they're enormously conflicted because they really love this person, but they cannot face, I mean, particularly in a relationship that they want to commit to, they can't face bad sex for the rest of their life. It's a huge issue. And um and just to go back to your previous question about differences of generation, okay, so when I talk about the impact of porn as default sex education, people's minds tend to go to sex acts immediately. But the impact is much more insidious, ingrained, and fundamental than even that. So, here's one example. The vast majority of mainstream mass market porn is made by men for men. And I'm going to talk about this in a heterosexual context, but by the way, but obviously everything we're doing with Make Love Not Porn is all inclusive. The entire raison d'etre, the be all and end all of every mainstream straight porn scene is to get the man off. As a result, we now have an entire generation of guys and girls growing up believing the entire raison d'etre, the be all and end all of of sex in general, is to get the man off. So I'm 54. I'm old enough to remember back in the day when it was enormously important to the men I slept with that I came first, that I came at least once, if not several times. If I did not come, the entire sex session was a failure. Nobody was going anywhere till I came. These days, I don't come and it's not even remarked upon. And by the way, I'm very selective about whom I date. I only date utterly lovely younger men. This isn't true of all of them, but for the majority, it's not even remarked upon. Porn does both men and women a huge disservice. It doesn't show women how to expect, experience, and demand their own pleasure, and it doesn't show men how to give it. in the same way that it also does men a disservice by making men feel that sex is entirely dick-centric, that it's all about how long it is, how big it is, how hard it is, how long you keep it up. Great sex is about everything. Great sex can have nothing to do with penetration whatsoever. You don't have to stick your dick in a woman to satisfy her sexually. In fact, quite frankly, it'd be a great deal better off the time if you forgot about doing that entirely and focused on other ways with which to make a woman come. And that is not what porn is teaching. Not what a lot of porn is teaching both men and women. Right. Let me answer that question from a couple of different perspectives, Leanne, because I bring perspectives to all of this that I don't observe anybody else really understanding or articulating. So, first of all, I get very frustrated when people talk about porn as if it was one big homogenous mass. That's like talking about literature as if it was all the same. The landscape of porn is like the landscape of literature. There are just as many genres, subgenres, types, approaches. And one of the, backing out of your question, one of the very big problems we have today is that we all watch porn, we don't talk about it. Therefore, porn exists in this parallel universe, in this shadowy other world, and because of that, porn lacks a number of the tools that we use to help improve our lives in other areas. Porn lacks curation, or rather, porn lacks socially acceptable curation. There are sites that curate porn sites, but they're porn sites. There is no Yelp of porn. There is no socially acceptable navigation. And that's because it's really okay to come into the office on a Monday morning, stand by the water cooler and go, I'm really bored of all the restaurants I've been eating at. Who knows a new restaurant? It is not okay to come and stand by the water cooler and go, I'm really bored of all the porn I've been watching. Who knows some new porn? And that's a real problem because the landscape of porn needs navigation, especially for young people who could really benefit from being guided to the parts of the porn universe that would be enormously helpful. Porn as an abstract concept is a wonderful tool with which to explore your sexuality, find out what you like and what you don't like. But because we don't allow that, and by the way, the Yelp of porn is $1 billion business idea for the person who starts it, um, people go straight to YouPorn and stay there. And that absolutely is not helping improve sexuality and sexual relations between men and women. So that's one issue. Here's another issue. When I talk about make love not porn at tech conferences and the like, I always end by saying, if you find what I'm doing intriguing and interesting, here's what I want you to take away from it. This is what a venture concepted by a woman, co-founded by two women and a man, and built by a tech team that is more female than male looks like. Different. The day we have a porn industry that is 50-50 equally informed, influenced, designed, managed, led, and driven from the top by women as well as men, that therefore targets 50% of its output and its product equally at women as well as men, as opposed to mistakenly thinking that men are the only audience for porn, and that therefore makes 50% of its money equally out of women as well as men, is the day we have a porn industry that looks very, very different. More innovative, more disruptive, more creative, more different, and a better industry as a whole. What I've just said, by the way, is true of every other industry: the film industry, the music industry, the television industry, the advertising industry. And so, again, the issue isn't porn, the issue is the way the porn industry works currently. When people say to me, you know, do you think porn objectifies and degrades women? My response is, any industry that is dominated at the top by men inevitably produces product that is offensive, degrading, and demeaning to women, and then I point them to the advertising breaks in the Super Bowl. As in my industry, so in porn. Boys and girls are equally exposed to porn today at a very early age. Okay, it's not about boys; it's about both of them, because the average age today which a child is first exposed to porn online is 6. And that is not because 6-year-olds go looking for porn. They don't. It's a function of what today is utterly inevitable, of what somebody shows them on their cell phone in the playground, what happens when they go round to the neighbour's house, because it doesn't matter what parental controls are in place at home, kids go other places, or because this is the most wired generation ever, a 6-year-old does something really cute and innocent. They learn a new naughty word and they Google it. Peanuts. One or two clicks away is something they never expected to find. Just as the 7-year-old daughter of a friend of mine a few weeks ago innocently Googled black tights and spelt it TITS. You can imagine what came up. Okay, so that's what's happening to boys and girls equally. And by the way, part of the problem here too is that very few parents ever talk to their children about sex. And once upon a time, back in my day, if you're one of those parents prepared to at least have the conversation used to be purely logistical. The conversation used to be this goes into this. When a man loves a woman, the birds and the bees. The conversation you have today as a parent goes, darling, we know you're online. We know you're going to be seeing porn online. We just need to explain to you that actually not all women like being tied up, bound, gang-banged, raped, choked, and have men come all over them. And actually not all men like doing that either. 100% of parents not having that conversation, which is why we're doing what we're doing with Make Love Not Porn. And so in answer to your question, this impacts both boys and girls equally. And no, you're absolutely right. It is not good. A friend of mine, and this is several years ago, told me that he was on the subway in New York coming in from Brooklyn to Manhattan, standing next to two 11-year-old boys who were laughing and joking about, quote, the funny things that guys do to girls on gagonmycock.com. And by the way, my friend leaned in and said to them, go to makelovenotporn.com. But hopefully they did. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with gagonmycock.com. It's a particularly unpleasant site. The concept of the site is that there are a gang of guys running it who have T-shirts with gagonmycock.com on them, that they go out and they find girls in bars and clubs who boast of their prowess at blowjobs, and they go, right, prove that you are the blowjob queen, you can win one of these T-shirts. They then basically, it's exactly what the site sounds like, make the girls choke on their cocks. The aim is to try and get them to vomit, cry, so the content's seriously disgusting. But when you look at the homepage of gagonmycock.com, what it says is things like an endless supply of sluts that we have absolutely no respect for. They think the T-shirts are a joke, the joke's on them. Not only is this not the content you want 11-year-olds boys watching, this is not the language and the approach and the attitude and the tone that you want driving 11-year-old boys' attitudes towards relationships between men and women. So we have many social agendas with Make Love Not Porn and our mission of talk about it. And here's one thing that we're doing that nobody else is thinking about or addressing in the same way. Because we don't talk about sex in the real world, we have no socially acceptable language with which to do that. The language of porn has rushed in to fill that gap. And that's not good for many reasons, including the fact that, as you would expect in a male-dominated industry, the language of porn is predominantly male-generated. So the person who coined the term finger blasting didn't have a vagina. Because if you have a vagina, you hear the term finger blasting, you want to cross your legs. The person who coined the term getting her ass railed never got his ass railed. Pounding, banging, hammering, all terms invented by people who did not possess soft internal vaginal and anal tissue. So, at Make Love Not Porn, we are creating a new vocabulary for real-world sex. We tag our videos completely differently to the usual porn drop-down menu of anal, Asian, hairy, cream pie, whatever. We tag them with terms like juicy, succulent. Our term for oral is downtown. Our tag for anal is deliberately derived from the female experience of anal. We tag our anal sex videos as ow, 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 hey now. So what we're doing is we're creating a new vocabulary because we want you to take this language and use it beyond our platform in the real world. This is language you can use to talk about sex in public without being embarrassed about what's coming out of your mouth and without having to worry about people overhearing you in the coffee shop or the bar. And this is language you can use in bed to ask for what you want in a gender equal way and in a way that makes you feel good about what's being said between the two of you, the three of you, whoever, and the things that you want to ask for. No, I absolutely don't think they should be. But the fact of the matter is, we are at a zeitgeist moment. We can't stop that happening. It's going to happen. And that's why The answer is not to shut down, clamp down, censor, block, repress. The answer is to open up. Open up the dialogue. I say to parents, this starts in the home. You cannot begin too early talking to your children honestly about sex. So they can come to you about things they feel confused about. They can know that when they stumble across this kind of stuff online, it's artificial. This is not what real world sex is all about. No, I mean, I absolutely don't think 10 and 11-year-olds should be viewing porn, but the genie is out of the bottle and you can't put it back in. They are going to view it whether you want them to or not. I mean, I hear from both young people and parents all the time. A young woman wrote to us last year to thank us for Make Love Not Porn. Her email contained the line, "When I was 8 years old, watching my first porn gangbang." A man wrote to me on Facebook, a complete stranger, a father. His email was headed, "My wife and I cannot thank you enough for what you're doing." He said, "We have a 10-year-old son. We decided it was time to have the sex talk." So we sat down with him and he said to me, "Daddy, why do men wear masks when they're having sex?" And his father wrote and said, "We have parental controls on our iPad, and my 10-year-old son has somehow managed to find his way to a site where men wear masks when they're having sex." He said, "We can't thank enough for what you're doing. When he's older, we're sending him to your site." There obviously is for a number of reasons. First of all, like I said, the vast majority of porn is deliberately targeted at men. It is not designed to appeal to women. It's designed to get the man off as quickly as possible. So of course, it's like any other product sector. You know, where a product is very, very heavily focused on men, and by the way, the way that when products design themselves specifically for men, they are off-putting to women in any arena, not just porn. Okay. Um, Also because there is a huge stigma in our society, appallingly and unfairly, against female masturbation. Male masturbation is totally fine. It's a part of popular culture. It's referenced all the time, it's in, movies like American Pie, whatever. Male masturbation is just fine. Female masturbation is not fine. And that's absolutely outrageous. Every woman should be encouraged to masturbate. Every woman should know how to make herself come so that she can instruct her partners on how to make her come in future. Every woman should own a vibrator. Actually, every man should own a vibrator as well. But there's a huge amount there's a huge number of dynamics that conspire to make female sexuality subject to appalling double standards and much more difficult for women to explore than for men. There are women going through life who have never had an orgasm. I would love to see a reversal of the current state of things. Imagine if every woman went into every single sexual encounter automatically expecting to come as her God given right. And imagine every man went into every sexual encounter expecting not to come and just be very pleasantly surprised if he did. Boy, oh boy, we'd have a different world on our hands. And quite frankly, a spot of that role reversal would be very good for everybody.